But you know, I was only 21 at the time, and I'm like, I couldn't believe I was playing a mother of a little girl. I'm like, I have no idea. I have no younger siblings.
You're standing at the top of the world. Your face is on every magazine cover. Millions of people.
I don't even know what I'm doing. And you helped. You were just charming and adorable.
Oh, I'm so glad. Good.
People tune in to watch you every single week. You're living the Hollywood dream.
You're a great girl.
That makes me so happy. What surreal lives we live.
So in Melrose Place,
But then everything starts to crumble. Your personal life falls apart in front of the entire...
of course, everyone living together in this confined space.
Yes.
Did you ever have that experience? I actually lived in a place that was sort of like that when I first moved to Los Angeles.
...world. People won't stop talking about your struggles. And the pain just keeps coming.
Years ago. Did you ever have an experience like that?
You know, I think when a lot of people go to college, they have those experiences. And I lived in a one-bedroom apartment with a girl and a guy, and...
Wave after wave. This is the real story of Heather Locklear.
The girl and I, stayed in the one bedroom, and the guy was on a pull-out couch in, like, the family room, but we would never allow him
And
to go
at 63 years old, she's faced news that would break most people.
to bed until we were ready. We're going, no, we're watching TV. You're not pulling out the couch, and we would never allow him to.
Let's go back to the beginning. Heather Locklear wasn't always struggling. There was a time when she was America's sweetheart. In the 1990s, she was everywhere. If you watched television back then, you definitely knew who she was. She starred in a show called Melrose Place, and people absolutely loved her. She also appeared in movies like Money Talks. Her blonde hair, her beautiful smile, and her incredible talent made her a superstar. Everyone wanted to be her friend. Everyone wanted to know her secret. She seemed to have it all figured out. But here's the thing about Hollywood. What you see on the outside is almost never the whole story. Behind those gorgeous photo shoots and red carpet appearances, Heather was fighting battles that nobody could see. She was dealing with darkness that she kept hidden from the world. While fans were cheering for her characters on television, Heather was struggling with problems that were slowly taking over her life. The pressure of being famous, the expectations, the constant eyes watching her every move, it all started to weigh her down. As time went on, things got harder. Heather found herself trapped in a cycle that she couldn't seem to break free from. She was dealing with addiction issues that got worse and worse. It wasn't just one thing, it was alcohol. It was pills. It was a desperate attempt to escape from feelings she didn't know how to handle. Her friends and family watched with broken hearts as she slipped further into this dark place. They wanted to help her so badly, but sometimes wanting to help isn't enough. By 2019, Heather had been to rehab more than 20 times. Let that sink in for a moment. 20 times. Each time she checked in, the people who loved her held their breath and hoped that this time would be different. This time, she would find her way back. This time, she would beat the demons that haunted her. But addiction is a monster that doesn't give up easily. It keeps pulling you back, no matter how hard you try to run away from it. The financial cost of all those treatment stays was enormous, but that wasn't even the worst part. The emotional toll was what really hurt. Her family lived in constant worry. Every phone call could be bad news. Every quiet moment made them wonder if she was okay. Imagine loving someone so much and watching them suffer, knowing there's only so much you can do to help. That's what Heather's loved ones went through, day after day, year after year. But Heather wasn't just fighting addiction. She was also battling her own mind. In 2008, she checked herself into a treatment facility in Arizona to deal with severe anxiety and depression. These weren't just bad moods or sad days. These were serious mental health issues that made every single day feel impossible. The weight of depression is hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. It's like carrying a heavy backpack full of rocks everywhere you go, except nobody else can see it. You're exhausted all the time, but people expect you to smile and act normal. The media made everything worse. Every time Heather stumbled, every time she struggled, the tabloids were there to report it. Headlines screamed about her problems. Photographers followed her around, hoping to catch her at her worst moments. The actress who once gracefully posed for magazine covers was now being photographed at her lowest points. Her mistakes were magnified and shared with millions of people. There was nowhere to hide, no privacy to heal quietly. Everything was out in the open for the world to judge. Her romantic life brought even more pain. In 1986, Heather married Tommy Lee, the drummer from Motley Crue. It was a big deal at the time. People were fascinated by this Hollywood actress falling in love with a rock star. They seemed like an exciting, unexpected couple. But marriages aren't built on excitement alone. Beneath the surface, there were serious problems. The relationship that started with so much passion ended in divorce by 1993. Heather had hoped for forever, but sometimes forever doesn't work out the way we plan. After her split from Tommy Lee, Heather found love again. This time, it was with Richie Sambora, the guitarist from Bon Jovi. They got married in 1994, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. They even had a daughter together, a beautiful little girl named Ava. For more than 10 years, they looked like the ideal Hollywood family. Heather seemed happy. She seemed settled. People thought she had finally found her happy ending. But again, what looks perfect from the outside can be falling apart on the inside. In 2006, Heather filed for divorce, from Richie. The end of her second marriage hit her hard. She was already struggling with her mental health and addiction issues, and this pushed her even further down. It marked a major turning point in her life. From that moment on, things seemed to spiral out of control. The combination of career pressure, personal struggles, and now another failed marriage was just too much to carry. Then came a betrayal that cut deeper than almost anything else. Denise Richards had been Heather's friend. They weren't just casual acquaintances who saw each other at Hollywood parties. They were close. They were neighbors. They had mutual friends, including Charlie Sheen, who had worked with Heather on a show called Spin City. These were the kinds of friendships that are supposed to last, the ones you lean on when times get tough. But then Denise started dating Richie Sambora, Heather's ex-husband. Imagine how that must have felt. Your marriage has ended and you're still healing from that wound. Then your friend, someone you trusted, starts a relationship with the man you used to be married to. It doesn't matter when exactly their relationship started. For Heather, the timing couldn't have been worse. She was still raw from the divorce, still trying to figure out how to move forward, and now she had to watch a friend be with her ex-husband. It was like pouring salt into a wound that hadn't even begun to heal. The friendship between Heather and Denise was destroyed completely. Denise tried to explain the situation to the public. She said that she and Richie came together because they were both going through divorces at the same time. She insisted that she didn't steal anyone's husband, that their friendship had already been fading before anything romantic happened. But no matter what she said, the damage to Heather was done. The emotional pain of that betrayal was something Heather would carry for a long time. Around the same time, Heather reconnected with an old flame from high school, a man named Chris Heiser. There's something romantic about the idea of finding your first love again after all these years, right? But their relationship turned out to be anything but a fairy tale. Instead of being a sweet second chance at love, it became a source of even more chaos. They fought constantly. Their disagreements weren't just little arguments that couples have. These were explosive, intense conflicts that got out of hand. In 2018, something terrible happened at Heather's home in Thousand Oaks, California. There was a domestic violence incident that resulted in Heather being arrested. The situation had gotten so bad that her own brother had to call the police. According to reports, Heather had physically attacked Chris during a fight. Even though Heather claimed she had been hurt too, the police said they didn't see any visible injuries on her. They determined that she had been the one who assaulted her boyfriend. The people who knew Heather were shocked and deeply worried about her mental state and overall well-being. Despite this rocky start, Heather and Chris stayed together. They worked hard to build something stable out of all that chaos. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always pretty, but they tried. Heather's recovery journey continued to be bumpy. She leaned heavily on her family and friends for support. Her parents never gave up on her. They stood by her side through everything, doing whatever they could to help their daughter take control of her life again. But even their constant love and support couldn't always keep the dark clouds away. Every time it seemed like Heather was getting better, something would pull her back down. In April 2010, she was involved in a hit-and-run accident. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but the incident still made headlines. It was another saint, story about the troubled actress who seemed to be falling apart. The accident involved her black BMW, which was registered under both her name and Richie Sambora's name. Even though it was just a minor collision with a parking sign, it got way more media attention than it deserved. But that's what happens when you're famous and struggling. Even small mistakes become big news stories. Throughout all of these struggles, there was one constant bright spot in Heather's life: her daughter, Ava. The bond between Heather and Ava remained strong no matter what else was happening. Ava has dealt with her own anxiety issues, and she's always credited her mother for helping her through those difficult times. Think about that for a second. Even when Heather was at her lowest points, even when she was barely holding herself together, she still found the strength to be there for her daughter. She still showed up as a loving, supportive mother. Ava has spoken publicly about how much her mother means to her. She's talked about the time, love, and energy Heather invested in helping her through tough times. That kind of love doesn't disappear just because someone is struggling with addiction or mental health issues. Heather made sure that Ava felt supported and loved, even when her own public image was being torn apart by the media. The relationship between them has been shaped by their shared struggles, and it's made their bond incredibly strong. In 2018, things reached another critical point for Heather. Sources close to her revealed that she had turned down help from the people who cared about her most. This was heartbreaking for everyone involved. It wasn't that Heather didn't have people willing to help. The problem was that she wasn't ready or willing to accept that help. According to reports, she wasn't getting the proper medical and psychological support she needed. It wasn't just about treating the addiction anymore. It was about addressing the deeper mental health issues that were at the root of everything. For the people who loved Heather, this was incredibly frustrating and painful. They were desperate for her to get better, but they knew that ultimately, the decision had to come from her. You can't force someone into recovery if they're not ready. The actress who had once been admired for her strength and beauty had become a shell of her former self. She was fighting battles inside her own mind that were more terrifying than any role she had ever played on screen. But then, something amazing happened. In 2020, Heather celebrated 1 year of sobriety. She shared this incredible achievement on Instagram, writing about how proud she was to have made it through an entire year without using. This was huge. After more than 20 trips to rehab, after countless setbacks and struggles, she had finally managed to stay sober for a full year. For her fans and loved ones, this felt like a miracle. Maybe, just maybe, she had finally turned a corner. Maybe the worst was behind her. But recovery is never a straight line. It's full of ups and downs, forward steps, and backward slides. In July 2023, reports surfaced that Heather was struggling again. Sources said she had started drinking again and was thinking about going back to rehab, but she hadn't made the decision yet. This news was devastating for everyone who had been rooting for her. It raised serious concerns about her safety and well-being all over again. There was even a scary incident where Heather was seen walking along the edge of a building in Malibu. People who witnessed it described her behavior as erratic and concerning. Everyone was worried that she might hurt herself, either accidentally or on purpose. The people who loved her were once again left wondering how they could help, how they could reach her, how they could save her from herself. And then, in 2024, came one of the most devastating blows of all. On June 12th, Heather shared heartbreaking news with the world through Instagram. Her father, Bill Locklear, had passed away. In her emotional post, Heather called her father the most intelligent person she had ever known. She wrote that he was the love of her life, and that she was incredibly proud to be his daughter. She talked about how high he had set the bar, how much she looked up to him, how much he meant to her. Bill had been sick for a while before he died. He had been hospitalized earlier that year in February. This was an extremely stressful time for Heather and her entire family. Her father wasn't just a parent. He had been a source of guidance and support, especially during Heather's darkest moments. He had stood by her through all of her struggles, never giving up on her, always believing in her. Losing him wasn't just losing a father. It was losing one of her biggest supporters, one of the few people who had been there through absolutely everything. The bond between Heather and her father was well known among the people close to them. He had been her rock, her safe place, her reminder that she was loved no matter what. When he died, it left a hole in Heather's life that nothing could fill. Grief is hard enough on its own, but when you're also dealing with addiction and mental health issues, it can feel absolutely overwhelming. How do you cope with losing someone so important when you're already barely holding on? Despite everything she's been through, Heather hasn't given up on acting. In 2021, she appeared in a TV movie called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, the Christine Carlson story. Many people saw this as a potential comeback for her. Hollywood has a tendency to forget about actresses as they get older, but Heather still loved acting. She dove into this role with the same passion and dedication that had made her a star in the first place. It was her way of showing the world that she still had talent, that she still had something to offer, that she wasn't done yet. Her appearance in that movie was more than just a job. It was a statement. It was Heather saying, "I'm still here, I'm still fighting, I'm still me." Despite all the pain, all the setbacks, all the public humiliation, she refused to let go of the thing she loved most. Acting had always been a part of who she was, and she wasn't ready to give it up. So where does that leave us now? Heather Locklear is 63 years old. She's been through more than most people could imagine surviving. She's battled addiction for decades. She's fought severe depression and anxiety. She's gone through 2 divorces. She's been betrayed by friends. She's been arrested. She's been humiliated in the media countless times. She's lost her father, one of the most important people in her life. And through it all, she's somehow kept going. Heather's story isn't a simple one. It doesn't have a neat, happy ending tied up with a bow. It's messy and complicated and painful. But it's also incredibly inspiring in its own way. Because here's what Heather has shown us. Even when life knocks you down again and again, even when you fall back into old patterns, even when the whole world is watching you struggle, you can still choose to keep fighting. You can still choose to honor the people you love. You can still choose to hold on to hope. Heather continues to pay tribute to her father's memory through the way she lives her life. She keeps pushing forward, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Her story is proof that even when you face unimaginable loss, even when the darkness feels like it might swallow you whole, there's always a glimmer of hope for a brighter future. That hope takes courage. It takes determination. It takes getting up every single morning and deciding to try again, even when you failed 100 times before. The human spirit is an incredible thing. It can survive so much more than we think it can. Heather Locklear is living proof of that. She's someone who has been knocked down more times than most of us can count, but she keeps getting back up. She keeps moving forward. She refuses to let her tragedies define her completely. Instead, she uses them as fuel to honor her father's memory, to be there for her daughter, to keep pursuing the career she loves. Her journey teaches us something important. It teaches us that recovery isn't linear. It teaches us that mental health struggles are real and serious and don't just go away because you want them to. It teaches us that even famous, beautiful, successful people can be fighting battles we know nothing about. And most importantly, it teaches us that it's always possible to keep hoping for a better tomorrow, no matter how many times yesterday broke your heart. Heather's story is still being written. At 63, she's still here, still fighting, still hoping. And that, in itself, is a kind of victory. So what do you think about Heather Locklear's incredible journey? Her story is one of pain, but also of remarkable strength and resilience. If this video touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and family who might need to hear this message of hope. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about the people who have shaped our culture. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, no matter what you're going through, there's always hope for a brighter tomorrow.